Governor Carney, thank you so much for joining our show today. We are truly honored. We know you are extremely busy, so yeah. I guess the first thing that we should honestly say is congratulations. You've been reelected. So yeah. How do you feel about that?
I joke with people, well, first of all, it really is a good feeling, but I joke with people, the good news is that you got reelected. The bad news is you got reelected and you've got
I understand. No, I can only imagine, how busy you are. I guess, should we maybe sort of start exactly with the things that you want to make sure that you get out there, that you want to get out?
Absolutely. I think the most important thing is that we've seen an incredible surge in the number of positive COVID-19 cases in our communities really since mid-October.
Yeah.
And with, Halloween and then Thanksgiving, people gathering in a way that really was not good for protecting one another from getting COVID, we saw another surge. And it's not just here in Delaware, it's every state across the country and even countries around the world. As the weather got colder, people were moving more indoors, gathering together socially, people getting tired of the 9 months of all of this and letting their guard down. And so we've seen incredible spread. Now as we enter into the Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa holidays, we're seeing a surge like we've not seen so far in our state. And so people just need to be careful. My message is really pretty simple. Enjoy the holidays, but do it just with people in your own household. That's a hard message, right? Because we want to be with our relatives, our family members and friends, but it really is the most important thing to do. And the good news is help is on the way. The vaccine is here. It's being delivered now to hospitals and those frontline healthcare workers and to other populations. So that's the good news.
Can you sort of educate us on how the vaccine is going to be rolled out? Are the first people getting their vaccinations today in the state, and how will it go over the next few months?
Yeah, so first of all, it's been worked on both by a national group to establish priorities, right, based on risk, based on the idea of frontline essential workers. And then there's a local committee. So lots of transparency. It is a little complicated, but there's a lot of input from all the different sectors about who should get the vaccine first. And it essentially focuses on protecting the most vulnerable populations. If you think about the people who've died from COVID-19, it's overwhelmingly people that are over 65, even over 75, those who have pre-existing and health problems and are frail, as an elderly person. And so we're going to vaccinate those individuals first, the healthcare workers first, that take care of all of us, right, in the hospitals and the like, the nursing home workers who take care of the elderly, the elderly population itself, and then, segments of the population, first responders, law enforcement, fire and emergency services, essential workers, which include first food processing employee. In our state, we had a very significant outbreak in the lower part of Delaware with poultry processing workers. So there's a whole series of, and so we'll work with partners. Hospitals obviously can give the vaccine to their employees themselves through primary care physicians, and even I'm sure we'll stand up clinics to have people come in and get vaccinated. So this is going to happen in every state across the country with different groups of people coming in to get vaccinated. It's going to take a long time, where the estimate is to vaccinate over 100 million people across the country. That's a lot of vaccination. And it takes 2 doses, right? So you get the first shot, and then a couple of weeks later you get the second shot. So that requires some coordination as well. But it's really good news, because after that, we'll still be wanting to be protective, wearing masks and the like, but the risk of illness and succumbing to the virus will be significantly reduced.
Yeah.
Do you feel as though we've kind of gotten to a point where we can, I guess, start the process of thinking about coming out of this whole situation? Like, is the vaccine sort of the beginning of the end, or is this going to be a very long process too?
No, Jay, I think it's an interesting question and an important one. We had a group that was put together that involved community folks and business folks and so on and so forth that looked ahead, right? Because we want to come out, we want to accelerate from the economic perspective and for jobs, for workers, really accelerate out of this thing. And so there are a number of things that we're doing to do that, to prepare, putting state resources on the street in construction and other things like that. Preparing people with training. We put $10 million aside for individuals to get trained in certificates in high need occupations, healthcare, construction, logistics and transportation, so on and so forth. And so, yeah, that's an important thing. But right now, my focus as governor and our public health team is really on pushing down the spread of the virus we're seeing in the community right now, making sure more people are getting tested. And by the way, we have tested so many people. We're closing in on 400,000, almost half of the population of the state. And many of those folks, if not most, have been tested more than once. In communities all across our state, communities of color, city of Wilmington, suburban, lower Delaware as well.
So we know that you watch our show every Monday and Wednesday, Delaware's premier morning show. But in our shows, we've talked about the vaccine, and we've joked, but also had serious talks about the vaccine. And I've said that I'm not taking it. And for people like me, what would you say to the people who are afraid or worried and maybe leaning towards like, no, I'm not taking it?
Yeah, so first of all, we're very concerned about that, right? Some of that has to do with historical discrimination, right, and practices in the past. Some of it just has to do with people's fear of government in general. Some of it's political, the idea that somehow this whole thing is kind of made up and the like. But so we've just got to get the truth out and the message that it's safe. It's gone through a significant testing period through a very transparent process that's been established for any kind of vaccine. It's happened quickly for sure, and that's intentional. It's actually, I think, a great success that we've got a vaccine this soon. One that's already been approved for emergency use by the FDA, and one that should be approved this week probably, and then another and more that are coming after that. But the message has to be it's safe. Yeah. It's been approved apparently. There are some side effects. I mean, it mimics an infection itself, and so it triggers the immune system to attack it, right? And thereby giving you protection. And so there are some initial feelings of feeling sick like the day after, but apparently that goes away pretty quickly. So we're going to have a messaging campaign to get the word out that it's safe and that folks ought to make sure they get vaccinated.
Gotcha. So we're going to try to stay in the same place, but I know there's so many different components to, the whole pandemic. And one of the big things that's on everyone's mind is school. I know that right now things are pretty much back to where they were in like March and April in terms of everything being virtual. Can you give any sort of time frame for how you see schools reopening and what that will look like over the next few months?
Yeah, so one of the things we did learn over the last 9 months is that schools are very safe places and they can be made safe with the appropriate preparations. And the school districts have done a great job with that, making sure that students, everybody was concerned that the young children weren't going to wear masks. Well, they did. They adapt better than we do.
They do. I've said that so many times. Yes.
As a surprise to you, I live right behind Warner School, and so I drive by a lot. And when they were in and the kids were coming in on the buses, all the little kids are sitting up there with,
they like
that has not been a problem. And the expectation was that would be a big problem. There is a little bit with respect to, excuse me, children with disabilities, and the little itty bitty ones, but by and large, not a problem. We have not seen much transmission in the schools themselves. So the problem is that there is virus pretty prevalent outside of the schools, and teachers and staff and others are exposed outside of the schools, and that gets to be a problem from the perspective that they get sick, they test positive, and then they're not able to go to work. And then somebody who's come in contact with them has to quarantine for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
So I know my friend Darrell Green, who's the superintendent of Red Clay, he's got parents who want their children to be in school. And he used the example of Cook Elementary, and it's a public example. So, but he's got 70% of his parents who want their children in school, but he only has room for so many because of keeping the children distant from one another in the classroom. So that's a challenge. And then when somebody gets sick, when a teacher gets sick or an aide or somebody, and they can't come to work, operationally, he has problems making that work. But the schools, so it's a hard message for us, right? Yeah. To say to parents and staff, teachers and staff, schools are safe and we should be trying to get our children in school. They see what's happening in the broader community and they say, wait a minute, what about all this? So we decided, let's take another week on either side of the Christmas vacation, holiday vacation, and just have a lot more communication with the education folks to try to get everybody to understand the real situation so we can get more children back for in-person instruction. It really pains me to think of these children losing this critical time in their education. Learning how to read, pre-K to third graders they're just not going to get that time back. And so we just really need to lean into it. It's the hardest thing that we've had to do, both when we shut the schools down in the spring, reopened them gradually in the fall, had to take a pause now over the Christmas break, and then hopefully bring them back online in the second week in January.
So, understanding that the schools really aren't a hot spot for spreading the virus, like, what would you tell everyone? Like, if you could just give us 3 places to avoid, like, please just don't put yourself in these 3 to 5 circumstances. What are those places that will help us to sort of stop the numbers from increasing so much?
Well, of course, we've limited bars and restaurants and indoor gathering spaces.
And is that a noted hotspot? Like, restaurants are definitely,
Absolutely.
Okay.
So when they test positive, they get a call from somebody from public health who says, you've tested positive. Could you tell us where you've been? And they'll give them a list, and also others that you might have come in contact with, so we can call them and say, look, you've been potentially exposed. Please quarantine for a certain period of time.
That's scary.
And so, top of the list is bars and restaurants.
Okay.
So we closed them in the spring. We've significantly limited them. Any indoor gathering places, church services, funerals, weddings, big gatherings inside are all limited now because of the prevalence of the virus in our community. And then really we're seeing a lot of this is in informal social events. You have your friends over to the house for, refreshments and to watch the football game or whatever the case may be. And you just leave your guard down. You don't have a mask on. The most important thing that everybody can do is wear a mask. It's mostly for protecting others from you being COVID-19 positive, not knowing it, and you're spreading the virus. So everyone should wear a mask. I even wear a mask at times when my boys come home from out of state because I don't know what, I don't want them to get anything from me and vice versa until they get tested and we know that they're not shedding the virus. Mm-hmm. So I would just encourage people to wear masks at all times. And by the way, as I said, I live near Warner School, so I'm in the city a lot. And I see most people wearing masks, even outdoors. And that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
But you just have to avoid being within 6 feet of anybody, particularly indoors, so any kind of indoor gatherings. So that implicates, parties and dinners and all the rest over the holidays. We just need to dial all that back. And the advice is just limit the number of households, right? So I come from a big family. My sister wants to have dinner at her house. So all my siblings, my brothers and sisters come together. Well, that could be 10 different households. You just don't want to do that. It's just that simple.
So some good news. I think that you certainly see this as good news. I mean, and if you happen to be a Democrat, you'll see it the same way. Biden is now sort of officially our president-elect. That's big news. How do you feel about that? How do you think that will impact not only, I guess, the country, but also our state?
Leadership. Leadership during COVID-19. We have had such incredibly mixed messages on wearing a mask.
It's so easy to do. It's such an easy thing.
It's become a political statement, right? And the president and all you have to do is look at all the people in events in the White House that came down, including Rudy Giuliani, his lawyer, because in all these events, they discourage people from doing the most important thing that you could do, which is to wear a mask. Mm-hmm. And so from President Biden, we're going to get leadership by example. And we're going to get a president who's going to be talking to all Americans, as one, not red states and blue states, Democrats, Republicans. Look, we're all in this together. Mm-hmm. It's just the way Joe is. So we're going to get leadership. And then I think that bringing people together, part of it, instead of what the current president does, which is use the highest office in the country to divide people by race, by ethnicity, by geography, by, worker status. I mean, it's just very discouraging and a very difficult time. And we're just going to see kind of the opposite of that with the President Biden.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Well, so we love all the information and the advice and everything because it's really needed, especially now. So now that we have gotten all of that, we would like to play a game with you.
We want to have some fun with you. Can we have a little bit of fun? Real quick.
Fun.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to play this or that, Delaware version. So you only have 5 seconds to choose. And if you go over your 5 seconds, make sure you're doing the countdown.
Okay.
Jay's going to go. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
In 5 seconds, what am I supposed to do? I missed that.
You have to pick one or the other.
Okay.
I'm going to give you 2 options. You have to pick one or the other within 5 seconds.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Ready.
Lewis or Dewey?
Lewis.
Greek festival or Italian festival?
Italian festival.
Ice cream festival or flower market?
Mad at me.
Ice cream festival or flower market?
What was the second one?
Ice cream festival or the flower market?
Flower market.
Mm-hmm.
The doghouse or Capriati's?
Ooh.
Bodies, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, last one. Grottos or Seasons?
Ooh.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What do you think? All right.
That was good. All right, I think you're safe.
Yeah, Governor, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else that you want to say before you get out of here?
No, I just, first of all, thank the people, your listening audience, your viewing audience. Thank you for the opportunity to serve as their governor during a difficult time. And I would just ask all of them to be safe, enjoy the holiday season, but do it safely. And we're going to get through this. We've got a vaccine on the way, and things will be better in 2021.
Yes,
let's do it.
We're officially best friends now.
You
Governor.
two are.
Like we are. So just when you see us on the street, hey, best friend.
She just wants political favors. You have a great day. Thank you, Governor.